This is a scene from a future day. The Earth is occupied by the demon legion of the fallen angel Michael. Humanity is on the brink of annihilation. Yet this man before us has been chosen as the savior of human civilization. As long as he eliminates these monsters, the crisis on Earth can be temporarily resolved. But can humanity truly slay a god? And why has this man been chosen as the savior? The story goes back to the beginning. On the battlefield in Iraq, the two armies are engaged in intense combat. The battlefield is filled with flying shells. Veteran Gabe leads his teammates in fierce gunfire against local armed groups. He blew the enemy's head off, and then continued to launch a fierce attack on them through cover. Meanwhile, the sniper successfully kills two enemies. They thought the battle was nearing its end, but unexpectedly, enemy tanks are rolling onto the battlefield. Sniper David is the first to spot this behemoth. He excitedly sets up his rifle scope and prepared to deliver a fatal blow to the opponent. However, at this moment, female soldier Leah sensed something unusual. She immediately calls out for David to meet her head-on. David hurriedly rushes downstairs after hearing her. He quickly reaches Gabe's side to provide cover. However, when they enter the room, they find the room filled with the smell of blood. Teammate Paul has already killed all the captives. Just as they are in shock, a rocket strikes them suddenly. David is caught in the violent explosion and ran into the house, bleeding profusely. Seeing David's severe injuries, Gabe quickly orders the others to take care of Tiger. He then goes out alone to scout the situation. Gabe swiftly eliminates the enemies lurking outside. Then he checks the surroundings, but as he cautiously observes the area, suddenly, a wave of deathly energy approaches him. Gabe, sensing something, lowers his weapon. In the next moment, it turns out that all of this was just a dream, yet the scar on his chest is real. Years of brutal combat have left indelible trauma on Gabe's body and mind. He spends his days with medication, in search of temporary psychological peace. But at this moment, Gabe suddenly hears someone calling his name. He immediately looks toward the sound with caution. To his surprise, a stranger has appeared in his home. The man raises a wine glass to Gabe, toasting him, not treating himself as an outsider. Gabe's brows furrow in an instant. He never expected that someone could enter his home so silently, so he immediately warns the man seriously to get out of his house at once, or he would call the police for illegal entry. However, the man shows no fear at all. He even takes a sip of wine in good spirits. Then he smiles and says to him,
"Your number has been pulled. You've been recruited."
But Gabe completely doesn't understand what the man is saying. He had already completed his service and proudly retired. Even if he were to be recalled, it should be the country that comes to notify him. But the man stated that this time he is not serving the country, but serving the people. Listening to this nonsensical talk, Gabe's mood gradually turns impatient. He firmly tries to expel the man again. Unexpectedly, the man suddenly vanishes into thin air. The next day, Gabe leaves for work as usual. As he passes by a house, a girl cheerfully invites him to play a game. Looking at the child's innocent smile, Gabe complexly declines the invitation. Meanwhile, the underground boxing arena is holding an ultimate showdown. Both sides are evenly matched, and it's hard to determine a winner. The crowd of spectators cheers excitedly. At this moment, the tattooed man seizes his opponent's weakness and grabs his opponent by the neck. Then he throws a punch. His opponent is knocked to the ground, powerless to resist. The tattooed man continues his undefeated legend. The boxing arena manager arrogantly asks if anyone dares to step up and challenge. To his surprise, someone actually signs up. The new challenger is named Marcus. He looks noticeably not young anymore. The tattooed man looks at him with a hint of disdain. But unexpectedly, Marcus proves to be more than he seems. Marcus gains the upper hand right from the start. He catches the tattooed man off guard. After being hit with several hard punches, the tattooed man finally takes it seriously. He engages in a fierce battle with Marcus. The two refuse to give way to each other. Every move is a solid hit, although the tattooed man relies on his youth and strength to restrain Marcus. Marcus breaks free with a headbutt. Marcus follows up with an attack, jumping up to elbow the opponent in the head. In the next moment, the tattooed man falls to the ground, unable to rise. Marcus easily wins the match. He pockets a large sum of betting money. At this moment, a man in a suit enters the lounge. He friendly asks Marcus if he wants to have another round. The opponent would be him personally. Tony thinks the man is looking for trouble, so he immediately rudely tries to expel him. However, the man shows his sincerity by promising to help Marcus settle any troubles, and he pulls out his stakes. It turns out to be a bag full of gold. Tony immediately steps forward to take it. At this moment, the man also throws in his bet. If Marcus loses, he must offer his soul to the man. The man's words are quite strange, but Marcus pays no attention to them. Tony even mocks the man for being overconfident. After all, he looks quite weak, and doesn't even look like he can fight. So Marcus takes the initiative to attack. But unexpectedly, the man is surprisingly agile. He effortlessly catches Marcus's punch. In the next moment, black lines begin to appear on Marcus's arm. Immediately, a memory surfaces in his mind. In the scene, several masked men hijack an official rescue vehicle. After taking control of all the rescue personnel, they steal several packages. Then the leader among them removes his mask, and it turns out to be Marcus himself. He shoots dead an official. Then he turns his gun to threaten the other two to turn around. Seeing the fear in their eyes, Marcus feels a perverse pleasure rising within him. He forces them to open their eyes. Then he cruelly kills them. The memory abruptly ends here. At this moment, Marcus is shocked to find that his soul has been stripped from his body, and the bag of gold has all turned to stone. What on earth is happening? Why does the man want to take Marcus's soul? What is he plotting? The scene shifts back to Gabe. At this point, he has already started working. The old mechanic is slacking off as usual, and pushes all the work onto him. Gabe can only accept it helplessly. But at this moment, a strange voice suddenly echoes in his ear, urging Gabe to hurry and find them. Then a cross necklace appears inside the car. Gabe hurriedly looks around, but the repair shop is empty. Curiosity drives him to step inside the car. Just as he examines the necklace closely, the mysterious man from last night reappears. Gabe is startled in an instant. Could it be that everything from last night wasn't a dream? The man claims his name is Caesar, and he is a messenger of God, and Gabe is the chosen one by God. His mission is to fight against the Archangel Michael and his demon legion, to protect the earth and human civilization. These words sound rather juvenile. At first, Gabe doesn't believe it, but unexpectedly, Caesar seems to know everything about his life. He knows he suffers from severe PTSD, and that he has doubts about his faith after the war. He even brings up some of his comrades. It seems he knows everything. Although Gabe is shocked inside, he still doesn't understand why God would choose him. However, Caesar explained that perhaps it was precisely because Gabe had a strong obsession with the past that God chose him. Gabe ponders thoughtfully after hearing this. Subsequently, Caesar solemnly stated that Michael had closed the gates of hell. The lost souls are trapped in the mortal realm, and Michael is using them to build an army to rule over the human world. Only by defeating Michael and his demon legion can the gates of hell be reopened and send the lost souls to where they belong. If Gabe fails, human society will be doomed. This is a matter of great importance. Gabe lacks confidence in his ability to complete the mission, but Caesar is very confident in his abilities. He tells Gabe to gather his own legion to seek out peace warriors. This way, they may have a chance to defeat Michael. Then he disappears once more. Gabe is overwhelmed by the vast amount of information. He remains dazed until the end of his shift. At this moment, he encounters the girl from the morning again, but for some reason, the girl is crying sadly. Gabe quickly approaches to ask her what's wrong. It turns out that while playing house, she accidentally broke a teacup. As a result, she was harshly reprimanded by her parents. Gabe comforts her not to be sad. However, the girl is still trying to fix the teacup. Seeing her earnest expression, Gabe feels a mix of emotions within him. What hidden past does he carry that is so hard to express? After returning home, Gabe gazes at the words on the bottle, lost in thought. After a long while, he seems to have made a decision. Meanwhile, Marcus arrives at a warehouse. His purpose for coming is to find the psychopathic killer Roman. At this moment, Roman is committing atrocities inside the warehouse. He has kidnapped a young and beautiful woman, and is preparing to dismember her, to make her a part of his collection. Just as he is about to make his move, Marcus walks in. Roman is intimidated by his aura, and quickly called himself just a failure. But unexpectedly, Marcus expresses great appreciation for his work, and praises him as a reincarnation of Picasso. Then he invites him to join the Demon Legion. Watching Marcus close in on him, Roman's mental defenses collapse in an instant. He swings his knife in an attempt to attack Marcus, but Marcus easily subdues him with a single move. Then, a strange thing happens. Black lines begin to emerge on Roman's body. Then a memory appears before him. It shows the entire process of him kidnapping the woman. He inevitably experiences an out-of-body experience. Meanwhile, Marcus has vanished. The next day, young veteran David is blocked by a vicious dog. His co-worker urges him to come inside and help, but looking at the ferocious bulldog by the door, David's entire being expresses resistance. In the end, he refuses to go inside. The co-worker can only leave with the dog. Seeing that his job is already ruined, David decides to leave as well. He bumps into Gabe, who has been waiting for a long time. The two were once comrades in arms during the Iraq War. If it weren't for Gabe risking his life to save him, David would have perished on the battlefield. So after his brother's death, Gabe became his only family. Learning that Gabe is forming his own legion, David agrees to join without hesitation. After successfully finding his first teammate, Gabe visits his old teammate Leah's home and invites her to join the legion. Although Leah wants to help, unfortunately, she needs to care for her seriously ill daughter and can't spare the attention to assist Gabe. She can only wish him all the best. Seeing his old teammate looking haggard, Gabe expresses understanding of her decision. Immediately after, Gabe finds another person. It is the tattooed man who previously fought with Marcus. He is also Gabe's old comrade Paul. At this moment, Paul is in a match. Gabe's sudden arrival causes Paul to become distracted. The opponent seizes the opportunity and knocks him down. After the match, Paul angrily questions Gabe why he has come to find him suddenly. Gabe ignores his anger and instead asks if he wants to go on a mission together. Paul has always viewed Gabe as his best brother, so he accepts the invitation and prepares to fight alongside him once more. The formation of the Legion is nearing completion, yet Leah, who declined the invitation, is deep in thought. She was completely buried in the water, trying to calm her complex emotions, but in a daze, she sees Gabe handing her daughter a bottle of blue liquid, with a strange smile on his face. What could this possibly signify? Meanwhile, the old trio of teammates has begun training again. Although they have been retired for many years, muscle memory still remains. Their shooting practice results are quite impressive. The next day, they arrive in Georgia. To their surprise, Leah has also come to offer support. Gabe warmly embraces her and thanks her for agreeing to join the team. However, he is still curious about why Leah suddenly changed her mind. She tells him that she saw a vision of her daughter's future, but when Gabe asks her for details about the vision, Leah is reluctant to elaborate. She simply tells Gabe that she trusts all of his decisions. The four-person team successfully assembles. The old teammates join hands in battle once more. Next, they drive towards their destination. While waiting at a traffic signal, Gabe rolls down the window to check the surroundings, but unexpectedly, he saw three suspicious individuals on the roadside. Strangely, in the blink of an eye, the three of them vanish. Soon, the four arrive at their lodging hotel. Leah immerses her head in water again. This time, she saw a twisted symbol and a pink nude angel emblem. The background is filled with the word Lila. Leah immediately conducts a search. However, she couldn't find any building named Lila in the area. Gabe suggests that perhaps this is not the full name. He comforts Leah, telling her not to feel down. This word must have some significance. They just have not gathered the complete information yet. Then they begin to analyze the angel symbol. Since neon lights are mentioned, they speculate that it might be related to the night, and that nudity might represent desecration. But what is the connection between this information? At this time, Gabe is studying the twisted symbol. He discovers through a sign on the dining table that this isn't a symbol at all, but a letter in the Georgian alphabet. Leah immediately searched and found that the symbol represented the letter D. Combining the three pieces of information, Leah suddenly realized that she knows the hiding place of the Peace Warriors. They arrive at a nightclub called Delilah. They then split up to look for their targets. Before the operation, Gabe specifically warns the lecherous David not to trust anyone here, including the dancers in the club. However, David completely ignores this advice and turns to sit in the closest spot to the stage. He has clearly forgotten his mission. The club is filled with a lavish atmosphere. Although Leah feels uncomfortable, she focuses on searching for their target. Paul finds the bartender and orders 2 strong cocktails. At this moment, Gabe encounters the mysterious man by the roadside again, but unexpectedly, the man sees him and immediately runs away. In the blink of an eye, he disappears from sight. As Gabe searches for the man's figure, the man suddenly appears silently behind him and attempts to ambush him. Fortunately, Gabe is agile and doesn't let the man succeed. The two immediately grapple with each other. However, the man is clearly no match for Gabe. After a few rounds, Gabe manages to pin him against the wall. He sternly questions who the man is, but the man only claims to be an angelic operative. Meanwhile, Leah is being harassed by a strange man. Seeing his lewd demeanor, she strikes him with a powerful punch. In addition, Paul and David also encounter varying degrees of trouble. The group is all caught up in the fighting, but at this moment, the angelic operative suddenly vanishes before Gabe's eyes. Clearly, he isn't human at all. At this time, another team suddenly appears. The leader, named Will, is a priest. Although they are not hostile towards Gabe, they claim that the disruption caused by the Four has ruined their plans. As both sides are about to argue, Leah quickly intervenes to stop her teammates. She then informs them that the group across from them are the Peace Warriors. Thus, everyone is finally able to sit down peacefully for negotiations. Upon learning that Leah has the ability to see the future, Will can't help but exclaim that she is the chosen one. He introduced the composition of his team as Police Officer Jack, Atheist Faru, and himself. Each of them became Peace Warriors for different reasons. After listening to Will's introduction, Gabe shares everything he knows in return, but to his surprise, Will also knows about Michael's actions, and the person they are here to arrest today is one of Michael's Dark Warriors. Will possesses more information than they do, so Gabe invites him to collaborate, but Will responds that they will only follow the commands of the Divine, to remain neutral and maintain peace. Thus, they don't intend to interfere in human affairs. Seeing their firm stance, the Four can only leave in disappointment. That night, Leah receives an email. The sender claims to be able to help them. After a brief discussion, the group decides to investigate further. Then, they arrive at a building and meet the sender Ms. Deli. She showcases her developed high-tech weapons. The new weapons have tremendous power. Gabe and the others immediately see hope. Deli hands a kunai to the sharpshooter David. As a sniper, he can maximize the weapon's potential. Soon, the others also receive new weapons. Paul receives a powerful handgun. Leah's weapon is an angelic bow. Additionally, Deli gives her a bottle of mysterious blue liquid that is identical to the one she saw in her vision. What could this possibly mean? In the end, Gabe receives an ancient short sword. However, he clearly prefers the powerful firearms, but Deli insists that the short sword was specifically left for Gabe by a friend. It may have unexpected effects for him. Thus, the Four leave satisfied. Gabe arrives at a church. Several solemn giant statues stand here. In the center stands a goddess statue, with pure white wings growing from its back, but holding a terrifying skull in its hand. Gabe curiously examines it. At this moment, Caesar suddenly appeared and told Gabby that the statue was named Diana. A nostalgic expression appears on Caesar's face. Then a memory flashes before him. In a great battle years ago, Caesar wields a short sword, fighting against 3 hideous giants. His fighting ability is astonishing, and he holds his own against multiple foes. However, in the next moment, the one battling the monsters transforms into Gabe. Why is that? Could it be that Gabe participated in the battle years ago? But Caesar doesn't explain further, and quickly pulls away from the memory. Gabe reports on the progress of his team. Although they successfully found the Peace Warriors, the warriors are unwilling to help, so he asks Caesar how they should proceed to find the fallen angel Michael. At this moment, Caesar transforms into a riddle maker.
Then they have to rely on the spoken word.
Gabe listens, confused, completely unsure of what Caesar means. Caesar refuses to clarify the meaning of his words, because he believes that Gabe will soon understand his implied meaning. After some contemplation, Gabe and the others arrive at the local library, hoping to find answers from the collection, so the group splits up to search. They carefully search around. However, in the end, they find nothing. When the Four regroup, they discover that the floor of the lobby on the first floor is scattered with a lot of black powder. In the next moment, the Demon Legion emerges from the black mist. They are all transformed humans, each with a hideous appearance, and they roar as they rush towards Gabe and the others. Seeing this, the group quickly grabs their weapons to fight back. However, they never expected that their attacks would have no effect on the mutants. Soon, the Four are overwhelmed and unable to fight back, as they face imminent death. At a critical moment, the Peace Guardians suddenly appear. The tide of battle changes instantly. Gabe successfully frees himself from the mutant's grasp, but just as he demands to know Michael's whereabouts, the mutant emits a strange series of sounds. Then, it vanishes into thin air. At this time, the Peace Guardians have eliminated all the other mutants. From them, Gabe learns that Deli has also been attacked by the demons. Fortunately, she fought with all her strength, and used her homemade weapon to decapitate the enemy. This allowed her to narrowly escape danger. They then informed the Peace Guardians of the situation. Combined with the incident of Gabe's team being attacked, Will speculated that Michael's demon legion has already taken shape. The situation becomes more serious. Thus, they change their minds and decide to collaborate with Gabe's team. Moreover, Will brings useful information. There is an ancient cave town here, translated as the protection of Yahweh. It may be related to what they are searching for, so the group decides to investigate further. The suited man appears again. It turns out he is the embodiment of Michael. At this moment, he is recruiting humans to join the Demon Legion. This time, he has his sights set on a gangster boss. Naturally, they can't come to an agreement. Without exchanging much, they begin to fight. However, none of the subordinates are capable fighters. After a few rounds, they are all knocked to the ground. Thus, Michael's Demon Legion grows once again. The scene shifts again. After a long journey, Gabe and the others finally arrived at the legendary cave town. Looking around at the scenery, it is clear that this place has been abandoned for a long time. However, in their eyes, there are still places worth exploring, so the 7 decide to split into 2 groups. But unexpectedly, as soon as they enter the cave, both groups are simultaneously attacked by monsters. Seeing the strange creatures roaring toward them, Leah is the first to shoot an arrow. However, unexpectedly, the physical attack has no effect on the creature in front of them. David's kunai also fails to cause any damage. Instead, it only angers the creature further. Fortunately, Peace Guardian Jack seizes the opportunity and cut off the monster's tail with a single blow. Seeing the strange creature moaning in pain, David immediately steps forward and shoves the kunai into its mouth, successfully killing it. Meanwhile, Gabe and the others are also engaged in a fierce battle with monsters. Will strikes first, drawing his weapon to pierce the creature's palm, but he is also swatted away by the creature. However, Gabe seizes the moment and stabs the monster in the head. The injured creature immediately becomes cowardly and turns to flee without hesitation. Due to Will's serious injuries, Gabe decides to abandon the chase. He carries Will back to their place for treatment, but at this moment, Paul suddenly loses control of his emotions. The day's dangers have overwhelmed him emotionally. He never expected this mission to be so perilous, so he decisively turns and leaves. In order to understand how to use the short sword, Gabe seeks Deli's guidance again, but unexpectedly, the seemingly ordinary short sword in his hand can suddenly ignite into a blazing flame. Gabe's eyes light up in surprise, but Deli stated that she can't provide him with the necessary assistance. However, Peace Guardian Will can, as long as Gabe learns how to use it. He can unleash the sword's full potential. On the other side, David finds Jack, who uses a knife in the team, hoping to learn some techniques from him. However, Jack refused him, because Jack is very busy every day. Except for daily training and tasks, he spends almost all his time and energy on the children in the orphanage. Just like now, he is about to go help in the orphanage's kitchen. After hearing this, David immediately offers to help. However, as the two pass through an alley, they run into an angelic operative from the Demon Legion. The two immediately chase after him, but unexpectedly, there are 2 bikers waiting for them outside the alley. Soon, the 2 are scattered by the crashing motorcycles. A chase ensues on the streets of the town. Seeing the enemy getting farther away, Jack takes a shortcut to the intersection. He kicks the biker off his seat, but before he can ask anything, the biker's face starts to emit black smoke. Then, he loses his breath. At this moment, Gabe is practicing drawing his sword in front of a mirror, but the sword remains completely still. Where does the flame come from? This leaves Gabe puzzled. At this time, Will, whose injuries have improved, approaches him. Gabe immediately asks for his guidance. However, Will tells him that it is related to the wielder's belief. As mentioned earlier, because of the aftermath of war, Gabe has lost his faith. So now, how should he prove himself? Noticing Gabe's distress, Will offers him advice again. As long as the wielder can achieve complete trust, the short sword will provide a corresponding response. Just then, teammate Faru finds the 2. He found traces of strange activity in the Rukinski forest. So, the group immediately heads into the forest. But after just a few steps, several dark shadows dart past them. Gabe signals the team to stop cautiously. In the next moment, a few terrifying monsters surround them. Everyone immediately raises their weapons in a defensive stance. The monsters roar and howl at them. They believe they are about to face a fierce battle. Unexpectedly, after a few whistling sounds, the monsters instantly vanish. Then, Paul, who had left the group, suddenly appears. He claimed to have found a demon, and followed it into a newspaper office. There, he saw Michael. Paul is very anxious, which is why he followed the group to this forest. His words are very sincere. However, Faru doesn't trust this coward who fled at the last moment. He raised his gun and prepared to kill Paul, but Gabe stops him. he still wants to give his former comrade a chance, so the 7-person team continues forward. As they pass by a church, Will shows great reverence. Then he tells Gabe that faith is always worth pursuing, as long as one is willing to stop and listen carefully. They can perceive the guidance of the divine. Gabe ponders these words thoughtfully. The group arrived at a grand and imposing palace. The stone pillars inside are covered with strange carvings. Occasional roars of monsters can be heard. The group grips their weapons tightly and cautiously explores deeper into the palace. At this moment, Gabe suddenly noticed that Paul looks wrong. Sure enough, in the next moment, countless demons emerge from behind the pillars. Originally, Paul had always been impersonated by Michael. Long before Gabe's legion was successfully formed, Michael found an opportunity to kill Paul. Then he disguised himself as Paul and infiltrated the team. Upon discovering the truth, Gabe's eyes are filled with rage. He declared that he must kill Michael to avenge his brother. But unexpectedly, Michael shows a contemptuous smile. Then he takes a step back and hands the battlefield over to his demon legion. A great battle is about to break out. Both sides engage in a fierce struggle. Will faces off against Michael's dark warrior. However, after a few rounds, the opponent seizes an opening and stabs Will in the abdomen. Gabe rushes forward to check on him, but Will is already on the brink of death. He hands Gabe the cross necklace in his hand, and then slowly loses his breath. Gabe closes his eyes in sorrow. However, in the next moment, he finds himself in a place engulfed in flames. The heat waves scorch Gabe's skin, as if he is in the depths of hell. Caesar has been waiting for him here for a long time. He tells Gabe that the scene before him is the future of Earth and humanity if Michael succeeds. At this moment, Gabe asks Caesar again why God chose him to be the savior. Caesar tells him to close his eyes once more. He returns to the battlefield in Iraq 10 years ago. It turns out that at that time, Gabe found a surviving girl, so he put down his weapon, but he was targeted by an enemy sniper. Then a bullet shot into his chest. At that moment, Gabe lost his faith and became lost, but God never gave up on him, and his old teammates believed in Gabe himself, which is why they came here. Just as he finishes speaking, Caesar turns and leaves. Looking at the devastated environment before him, Gabe seems to have an epiphany, so he closes his eyes again. When his consciousness returns, he unhesitatingly grabs his weapon and chases after Michael's departing figure. Not long after, the two arrive at an altar surrounded by statues. At this time, the teammates are still engaged in a fierce battle with the demon legion. The enemies seem almost impossible to kill, continuously pouring in toward them. On the other side, Michael is still relentlessly trying to brainwash Gabe, and persuades him to join his legion. Otherwise, he would be doomed to perish with humanity. But Gabe's resolve is incredibly firm. Although he knows the strength gap between them is vast, he still raises the short sword in his hand, and engages in combat against Michael. However, reality is cruel. In just 2 rounds, Gabe is forced to retreat step by step. Though he is unwilling to accept it, he is ultimately kicked to the ground. Gabu lost all his resistance and lay on the ground, slowly closing his eyes. He sees images of Jesus before him. As frames of images flash by, Gabe's collapsed faith is restored at this moment. As the candlelight reignites, Gabe suddenly opens his eyes wide. Then he picks up the fallen short sword. At this moment, fierce flames engulf the sword's blade. A pair of pure white angel wings sprout from Gabe's back. It turns out Gabe is the embodiment of the avenging angel. Now, he can finally unleash the true power of this weapon. Michael is now utterly shocked. However, Gabe gives him no chance to react. He directly advances with the sword raised. At this moment, the tide of battle shifts dramatically. Gabe quickly subdues Michael. Then he stabs him in the abdomen with the sword. Michael knelt dejectedly on the ground, seeking help from the demon army. But unexpectedly, the dark warrior, who has been watching from the shadows, now abandons Michael and flees on his own. Seeing that defeat is inevitable, Michael hurls threats, but unexpectedly, the Lord of Hell Lucifer suddenly appeared. Michael's consecutive failures made Lucifer very angry. Although Michael insists repeatedly that he is the strongest archangel, Lucifer decides not to give him another chance. The messenger of God Caesar also appears here. He has no intention of stopping Lucifer. Under everyone's gaze, Michael transforms into a cloud of black dust, Faced with Lucifer's threat, Gabe remains unafraid. He gazes firmly at Lucifer's apparition, and declares that he is ready to fight at any moment. At the end of the story, Lucifer disappeared with the demon army. The crisis of Earth's destruction is also resolved. Gabe returns to his teammates. At this moment, he finally realized that he has actually been dead for a long time. He just clung to his obsessions before. Now he can finally face it calmly. Then, he bids farewell to his friends one by one, and turned around, walking into the sunshine. Under the sunlight, Gabe transforms into dust and disperses into the air. A few days later, Leah brings her daughter to the neighborhood where Gabe lived. They find the girl who often invited him to play games, and give her the gift that Gabe had prepared for her. It is a set of exquisite teacups. The film concludes here. This film perfectly combines fantasy and horror. The tight storyline and realistic special effects provide the audience with a thrilling visual feast. Of course, there are some shortcomings, but they don't affect the viewing experience. Friends who are interested can check out the original film, Angels Fallen 2: Warriors of Peace. If you like my channel, please click subscribe.